Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, and tonight we're going to be talking about the HBO original series, I Know This Much Is True, starring Mark Ruffalo, Kathryn Hahn, and a few other people, including Rosie O'Donnell and Juliette Lewis. This is based on a book. I know that it was promoted, I believe it's like one of Oprah's book club books. Never read it. I didn't know anything about what this is going to be, except that I saw that Mark Ruffalo was playing two parts as brothers. And as the show started and went on, it was very much a lot of, like, on the surface you could say that this is misery on parade. It was countless horrifying things going on in the life of Dominic and Thomas Birdsey. I've heard it described as relentless misery. But this, and it hasn't been really talked about, really by anybody. I haven't really been looking though either. And as I kept watching, I was wondering, how am I watching this? Why am I still watching this? But every week I kept tuning in and loving it on an emotional level. It's not glorifying, like, misery. It's a very realistic show. I always talk about that, how I like to see more realism in television movies, but lately when I get it, I'm kind of repelled by it, especially movies like the Safdie brothers do with Uncut Gems and Good Time, where they show a real, honest, ugly side of human nature. In this story, you could say it's just like one bad thing after another, and it'll be really hard for some people to watch. But it's fantastic. It's one of the best things I've seen all year, and Mark Ruffalo deserves to win all the awards. Mark Ruffalo is really good, and he's been playing complicated, complex people his whole career. It's one of the reasons why when I heard he was taking over for Hulk from Edward Norton and Eric Bana before him, I thought that's perfect, because he plays these kind of, the Hulk has become a certain other kind of character, but complex male characters is something that Mark Ruffalo has always done really well. Kathryn Hahn is really great in this as well. I've liked her ever since Crossing Jordan. Juliette Lewis, respectively, is pretty good. Rosie O'Donnell is another standout. She, I think, is fantastic. I'm not her biggest fan, but I can appreciate good performances when I see them, and I think she steals a lot of the scenes she's in. But this is Ruffalo's thing. This is Ruffalo all the way. Also, Melissa Leo is in this, and if I'm forgetting the other characters' names, I apologize, or actors that are in this movie, because this is a hard review for me, because I feel like this is less of a review and more of a discussion. And it's certainly not a reaction video. Because, well, we'll get into that. Rob Huebel's in this too. This is probably the best I've ever seen Rob Huebel. He's funny, but he's not like the usual fare that he gets in his performances. I also love the way this movie looks, the grainy way it looks. It really feels like you're in that 89, 90 kind of era. But this show, it feels like a movie. This 6-hour movie about Dominic and Thomas Birdsey covers all sorts of hard to talk about topics, things that are still hard, very, very hard for people to talk about. Abuse, mental illness, incest, things that are just really, really rough. I'm not going to get into spoilers about this show because I feel like that would be a detriment to anybody who wants to watch it. But long story short for this, the plot of this is that Dominic is the twin brother of Thomas, and Thomas suffers from severe mental problems. A lot of paranoid, like schizophrenia kind of thing. And you get to know the entire history, basically, of this family. That these two brothers don't know who their father is. Their mother dies. Their stepfather, on the surface, they've got their own past with him, and how Dominic is always trying to take care of his younger brother, to surmounting odds that people, a regular person, a person, anybody would have a really hard struggle with this, I think. And I'm sorry, because I do want to, I'm trying really hard to talk about this appropriately, because it's also it's a very personal story for me. And look, it starts with Thomas doing something horrific to himself. And it's bonkers. He believes certain things are happening, and he does something to himself that gets him put in a very bad hospital. And how that affects the brother who's trying to take care of him, who's trying to live his own life, who's had his own problems. And throughout the series, he starts to question his upbringing, who was his father. There's an old Italian manuscript from his grandfather that he gets translated from Juliette Lewis that leads him even further down a dark path of what their lineage is and what that means, and what that person's story, like how that affects him now, feeling that there's a genetic curse on their family. And the struggles that they go through that Dominic goes through to try to protect his brother without completely destroying himself in the process. And it's by the end of this last episode that I just finished, it was very hard not to start kind of crying. I know that's not cool for, men to show emotion still, I guess. Especially right here and now in front of the video. But if anybody knows my channel at all, you know that I try not to shy away from things that are uncomfortable for me to talk about as far as myself. And so, we're kind of done talking about the show. I'm about to talk about what this show what it meant to me, and how I think it can help a lot of people. And as rough as it is, and as hard as it is to watch at times, it's a very important show, I think, for people to watch. Because in the end, in the very, very end, this show is about forgiveness. It's one of the things that it's about. So for me, this show was basically like going to therapy once a week. And like a lot of therapy, you might wonder, what's the purpose of this? What are we doing here? Why aren't we getting it? Why am I not feeling, like any different? Why don't I feel like answers aren't coming? Why am I not fixed? Why don't I see things, And it's almost like, for me, it was the process of watching this show. And by the end of this last episode, it really felt like I was coming through with my own breakthroughs. Things that I was already knowing, and things that I was already realizing that I was doing in my own life, that has this show hitting me extra hard in a good way. What really opened it up for me was the weirdest thing. Actually, well, you can't, he's not really in there. Well, maybe the color's off. Um, it was the coat that Thomas's character was wearing in the last episode. He's worn it before, but it didn't really click in my head. But um, the coat that he's wearing is an exact match practically for a coat that someone I know wears. Someone I'm very near and, well, very close to, I should say, I guess, in a way. And a lot of things just started flooding into my head at that point. Because I think even all families have their problems. Not everybody has as many problems as what happens to the birdsies, but it over the course of this 6 hours, I started feeling like I was internally looking into myself and how I was viewing how my life has been up to this point, and how a lot of the things similarly mirrored things that have gone on in my life. And if I see that mirror, if I start to see that thing, then I'm pretty sure that a lot of other people have too that watch this show. I would never dare to speak for anybody else, but even the best families, especially maybe the best families, have things that have happened that have, under the surface, maybe broken them, or broken some of them, or whatever. I've had a really interesting life, and our family has had its share of really bad things happen, and I'm sure that I'm not alone there. But it made me really look at myself, at how I let the things that happened to me when I was growing up, like these boys in this show, how I let those things that happened to me turn me into who I became, and then stayed that way and got worse and worse over the years, until about 3 or so years ago, which was basically the moment I decided to stop drinking. And here I am about 3 years later from that decision, and with the clarity of that kind of sobriety, no relapses either, it's crazy. I'm finally able to see, and I think I've been subconsciously changing in those 3 years, trying to fix a lot of things about myself, and about how my choices and things that I did weren't just affecting me, but my friends, family, everyone around me. And I've been working really hard to slowly try to bridge some of these gaps, slowly but surely, in my life, to try to I don't know, fix myself is the right word, or fix everything, or try to make amends, take responsibility for how my choices affected people. Especially when you don't think you were doing anything, because you make it so much about yourself, when you think that it's all about you. and you're the only one that's affected by something, when really it's affecting a lot of people, and not acknowledging it and just letting all that still sit out there. In the time since I've lost people that I'll never get to see again, that I blamed for a lot of things, rightfully so at the time, but I held on to that for so long that it's too late in some cases to forgive. Forgive. I can forgive them in my heart, but I can't forgive them to their face, and they can't even try to reciprocate. I spent so much time just blaming what happened to me and other people that I didn't take responsibility for my own life. And I began pushing people away very early on because I felt rejected from society, from we could go into all sorts of detail about this, and we probably will on another video, but I became so used to insulating myself from outside harm that I didn't realize that I was putting it out there. I was harming other people by the way I was insulating myself and how I conducted myself in that insulated bubble that I put myself in. And this show wasn't the light going on, the light switch going on, but it really made me take stock that I'm still trying to get better, and trying to be better with people around me, family that I have not talked to in a really long time. I'm slowly trying to reestablish those links so that soon maybe I can start the process of forgiving the things that have happened to me, and hopefully maybe then maybe some people will forgive me for some of the things that I've done, that we do to each other. The cruel things that we do to each other, sometimes without even knowing it. Or the things that we deny that we've done to others, because we put ourselves first, I did this because I got to protect myself, or I used to say it was all about just so that I wouldn't get hurt. And so I hope that this show can start that kind of dialogue with a lot of people. I hope that if you can get through this show, and because this isn't a show, I think this isn't entertainment to me. If somebody finds this entertaining, then but I hope that this can maybe start some dialogue with families internally. And all it takes is one person in that family to try to bridge those gaps, try to mend those fences, try to forgive, because as much as we can tear each other down, we can also build each other back up, and we have to be strong enough to let people help us, and be there to help others. And especially right now in this day and age, we really I think we really owe it to each other to try harder on a lot of levels, because we're not gonna be here forever. None of us are. As much as I joke about putting my brain in a robot body, I know that that's not going to happen. It's more of a running gag now. But I know I'm not going to be here forever, and do I really want to leave this world blaming people forever for the things that have happened to me, and not acknowledging my part in things that have happened, whether they were good intentioned or not? And so I think if even a few people can watch this show and use it as a springboard to starting a conversation with someone that you've been meaning to talk to, or forgive, or talk to, or whatever, then the show, the book, and the show, and the writers, and the actors, and everybody have done their job. And Mark Ruffalo, man, boy, dude, because there's so many parallels in this to how my life is right now. I'm a little. Anyway, I didn't want to spoil anything from this show. And like I said, I hope that this show starts a dialogue, and it's important. I think this is one of the most important shows of the year. Maybe the most important. But I'm going to say something that hit me right at the end, and it's just a few lines, and it's paraphrasing. But as I leave you guys for tonight, I'm just going to say that the lines that hit me: love grows from forgiveness. From destruction comes renovation. And I know this much is true. Have a great night, everybody. Be kind to each other. And maybe if there's somebody out there that you need to talk to that you haven't for a while and you've been making excuses to about not talking to them or whatever, hopefully maybe this will give you that push in the right direction. Mrs. Rob, I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.